think the idea that people think that they know you, I think because of how intrusive media is these days, people care so much more about your personal life than they do your work, and if you aren't open with your personal life, then they just make it up for you and share it for you.
Blake Lively thought she had it all under control. The public adored her, the industry respected her, and when the controversy first broke, she almost had people believing her side of the story. Almost. But then, the leaks started. Private messages, behind-the-scenes footage, and conflicting testimonies started piling up against her. Suddenly, the same media that once praised her couldn't ignore the glaring contradictions. And the worst part? She did this to herself. Now, she's trapped. Every attempt to shift the blame backfires. Every new reveal just brings more receipts exposing the truth. What started as a PR dispute has spiraled into a full-scale scandal, one that could permanently shatter her carefully curated Hollywood image. So how did it all fall apart? And why does Justin Baldoni, the man she tried to bring down, seem to be coming out on top? Let's break it down. Blake Lively wasn't just a celebrity, she was a brand. A-list status, fashion icon, the effortlessly charming actress who never got dragged into Hollywood drama. That was her thing. No messy feuds, no tabloid meltdowns, just the picture-perfect image of a star who had it all together. But now, that image is shattering. The controversy surrounding It Ends With Us has done something no one expected. It's made Blake Lively the villain in her own story. Fans who once saw her as relatable and down-to-earth are now questioning everything. The media, which used to celebrate her as a Hollywood darling, is turning on her fast. And the worst part? This isn't just bad press. It's a credibility crisis.
That is also accurate and weirdly high praise as well. It was just one of those. It felt like a live-action Pixar movie. It was something that, I wanted to do something where nobody was being stabbed in the face.
At first, when reports of tension on set started trickling in, people brushed it off. Hollywood productions are filled with egos. Creative clashes happen all the time. But this wasn't just a disagreement over direction or a few harsh words behind the scenes. It was something much bigger. Accusations, leaked texts, contradictory evidence. The kind of scandal that doesn't just fade away, it sticks. And here's the harsh reality. Hollywood is quick to forgive, but only if the public buys your version of events. The problem? Blake's version is falling apart. Every new leak, every uncovered message, every timeline inconsistency is making her look worse. She's not just facing backlash, she's fighting to hold on to the image she spent years building. But here's the real danger. Once that image cracks, it never fully recovers. Hollywood loves a comeback, but it also loves a cautionary tale. And right now, Blake is dangerously close to becoming one. At the center of this entire scandal is Blake Lively's messy fallout with Justin Baldoni, the man she once praised as a creative collaborator, now painted as the supposed mastermind behind a media takedown. When It Ends With Us was first announced, it had everything a studio could want. A best-selling novel, a passionate fan base, and 2 high-profile leads. This was supposed to be an easy win, a simple book-to-film adaptation that would bring in millions. Instead, it's now a battleground. The legal disputes, the media leaks, the whispered accusations coming from insiders. This is no longer about a movie. It's about power, influence, and a Hollywood star who thought she could manipulate the narrative, only to watch it backfire spectacularly. At first, Blake tried to control the conversation. She framed Baldoni as a power-hungry director who was undermining her. She claimed he was behind the negative stories floating around, trying to tarnish her reputation by making her look difficult, demanding, and self-centered. And at first, people bought it. After all, Hollywood is filled with stories of directors mistreating actors, of studio politics forcing women to fight for control of their own projects. But then, the leaks started, and suddenly, the story started falling apart. The messages told a very different tale, a tale where Baldoni wasn't the villain, but the one trying to manage an escalating situation.
But I was like just tracking him down, and then I finally got to read the script, and the script was a thriller. So that was a little confusing to me because he's like such a funny director.
Yeah.
And so I said, what is this? Because the script is definitely like a twisting, turning, intense thriller. Is it a comedy or a thriller? And he said, yes. So then every day on set, I was like, is today a comedy or is it a thriller?
It's a good mix
and
of
it's
both.
it's like really kind of over the top and campy. And
the leaked texts, the conflicting statements, and the first-hand accounts from insiders all pointed in the same direction. Blake was the one fueling the fire. She wasn't being targeted. She was orchestrating the very drama she claimed to be a victim of. And here's the thing, if Baldoni really wanted to destroy her, he wouldn't even have to lift a finger at this point. The evidence is doing that all on its own. Every leaked text, every internal memo, every conflicting statement is stacking up against Blake, and Justin Baldoni, the man she tried to take down, is coming out of this stronger than ever. What was supposed to be a movie promotion tour has now turned into a career-defining moment. For both of them. The difference? One of them is walking away with their reputation intact. The other? Not so much. At first, Blake Lively played the game perfectly. She positioned herself as the victim, the actress being sabotaged by a controlling director who wanted to discredit her. And let's be honest, it was a story people wanted to believe. We've seen it before in Hollywood, powerful men silencing women using PR tactics to push them out of projects or damage their reputations. Blake knew exactly how to frame it, a beloved actress up against a manipulative director trying to control the story. And for a while, it worked. Fans rallied behind her. The media picked up the story. Social media ate it up. People were outraged at the idea that Justin Baldoni was deliberately making her look bad. The sympathy was there. The support was building. Blake almost had full control of the narrative, and then the leaks started coming in. Suddenly, things weren't adding up. Messages surfaced that contradicted Blake's claims. Instead of Baldoni running a smear campaign, it became painfully clear that Blake was the one planting the stories. The interviews she gave, the articles that mysteriously aligned with her claims, it all traced back to her camp.
Was testing for a show that ended up actually getting picked up and doing very well, and I was one of 2 people maybe, and then I get a call from my managers and my agent. They were both on the line, which means it's something serious.
Right.
Either you got the job or there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And they said, so you were the choice, but the network said that your eyebrows would be too distracting.
Oh, what? Oh, no.
And then they went like, so what can we do about your eyebrows?
Her carefully crafted victim narrative started collapsing in real time. And the worst part? She couldn't stop it. Here's the thing. Before the digital age, she might have gotten away with it. If this had happened years ago, when Hollywood PR teams could control the media cycle, she could have spun the story however she wanted. But that's not how the world works anymore. Screenshots don't lie. Behind-the-scenes footage doesn't disappear. Conflicting statements get dissected, reposted, and fact-checked instantly. And right now, the internet is looking at every single piece of evidence, and realizing Blake's version of events just doesn't hold up. What was supposed to be a controlled PR strategy has turned into a full-scale implosion. She thought she could manipulate the media, but now the media is turning against her. And once that happens, there's no coming back. If there was one moment that completely shattered Blake Lively's credibility, it was when the leaked messages started surfacing. At first, it was just a few inconsistencies, things that could be brushed off as misunderstandings or media exaggeration. But then, more messages dropped. And with each new leak, the truth became impossible to ignore. Suddenly, everything Blake had been saying publicly didn't match up with the actual conversations behind the scenes. The texts, the emails, the internal notes, all of it contradicted her carefully curated story. She claimed Baldoni had been undermining her. The messages suggested she was the one spreading false narratives. She said she was mistreated on set. The leaked texts showed her making demands, trying to control key decisions, and even threatening to withdraw from promotional events if she didn't get her way. She insisted Baldoni had crossed personal boundaries. The receipts painted a very different picture, one where Blake had exaggerated, omitted key details, or outright twisted situations to fit her side of the story. This was no longer a simple case of he said, she said. It was textbook narrative manipulation, and people were finally seeing it in real time. And here's where it got worse. Not only did these leaks contradict Blake's claims, but some of them revealed that she had actively edited or selectively framed conversations to make herself look like the victim. Entire sections were missing. Key sentences were cut short or rearranged to change their meaning.
I mean, I internalized that as opportunity. Like, we had such a responsibility to this audience to deliver something and to have the opportunity to deliver something for a passionate group of people.
In some cases, emoji reactions and tone indicators had been removed, which, in digital conversations, can completely alter context. For example, one of the most damning leaks involved a conversation between Blake and Baldoni regarding their working relationship. In the public version that circulated first, it looked like Baldoni was being dismissive, even borderline aggressive. But the full conversation, the one leaked later, showed that Blake had removed entire paragraphs of her own words, including messages where she was the one steering the discussion into conflict. That was the moment people realized this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. Here's the real problem for Blake now. Every single thing she says is under scrutiny. Once a public figure gets caught manipulating evidence, their credibility takes a permanent hit. And in Blake's case, she's no longer being given the benefit of the doubt. Every new claim she makes is immediately met with skepticism. Is she telling the truth? Is this another half story? Are there more hidden messages that contradict what she's saying? The trust is gone. And the worst part? The leaks aren't stopping. Insiders are already hinting that there's still more coming. More texts, more emails, more behind-the-scenes footage that could make this even worse for her. At this point, it's not a matter of if something else will surface, it's when. Blake tried to control the story, but now, the story is controlling her. And here's where things get really messy. Blake wasn't just trying to control the public narrative, she was allegedly trying to control the entire movie. What started as an acting role quickly turned into a power struggle, with Blake pushing for more influence over It Ends With Us than anyone anticipated. Insiders now claim that from the very beginning, Blake wanted to call the shots, not just as the lead actress, but as an unofficial decision-maker in every stage of the film's production. She allegedly demanded script changes, insisted on having final approval over edits, and even wanted control over post-production decisions, something that traditionally falls to the director and producers. And when Justin Baldoni pushed back, that's when things took a turn for the worse. At first, it seemed like a typical behind-the-scenes disagreement, but the more the leaks surfaced, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about creative input, this was about power. Blake didn't take no for an answer. Instead, she brought in reinforcements. Reports suggest that she leveraged her Hollywood connections, including Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift, to pressure the studio into siding with her. And here's why that's a big deal. Ryan Reynolds isn't just Blake's husband. He's a box office powerhouse, a producer, and someone with strong industry influence. Taylor Swift, one of the most powerful public figures in the world. If Blake even hinted that their support, or lack of it, could influence the film's marketing, executives had to take that seriously. She allegedly used their star power as a bargaining chip, implying that their backing, or the absence of it, could sway public perception of the film. That kind of influence? It's a dangerous game. When her demands weren't met, reports claim Blake threatened to withdraw from promotional events, holding the film's success hostage if she didn't get her way. If she refused to do press tours, refused to market the film, or refused to show up for high-profile interviews, the movie's exposure would take a massive hit. That kind of career sabotage isn't something studios take lightly, and that's why this whole situation became a Hollywood power struggle unlike any other.
And being frank, if it were not for women giving me direct feedback in my own personal life and being a man who was willing to at least listen to them, there's no chance that I would be having this conversation. So the message, to answer your question, the message is very simple. As men, we need to embrace all of the parts of us that make us human. That's it.
It is.
It's very simple.
But here's where things really started to unravel. When the leaked messages surfaced, everything changed. Suddenly, the rumors weren't just speculation, they were backed by receipts. Internal conversations reportedly showed Blake demanding control, pressuring executives, and steering conversations behind the scenes in ways that contradicted her public statements. The most damning piece of evidence? Reports suggest that during the film's premiere, Blake and Ryan allegedly requested that Baldoni and his family be kept in a separate area. Imagine that. The director of the film being sidelined at his own movie premiere because Blake didn't want to share the spotlight. Instead of looking like a dedicated actress fighting for creative integrity, Blake now looked like a Hollywood star trying to manipulate an entire production to serve her own interests. Now, Hollywood insiders are watching closely. Studios that once saw her as a safe choice for leading roles are questioning whether she's too much of a liability. One of the biggest accusations Blake made was that Baldoni invaded her privacy, walking into her trailer while she was pumping milk for her child. She framed it as a serious violation, a moment that crossed personal boundaries. People were horrified until the text messages surfaced. Turns out Blake had invited him in. She even joked about the timing. And when Baldoni expressed discomfort and offered to reschedule, she insisted he come in anyway. This wasn't a violation, it was a setup. And when that became clear, people started looking at the rest of her accusations a little differently. Blake also claimed that producer Jamie Heath showed her inappropriate footage, implying it was something disturbing. But the actual footage? It was a private birth recording, used as a reference for a childbirth scene. Instead of something shocking, it was a completely normal industry practice. But Blake twisted it into something sinister. And now, with her credibility already in question, this claim is falling apart just like the others. Then there was her claim that Baldoni obsessed over her postpartum body, making disrespectful comments about her weight. At first, people believed it, but then the actual reason behind those conversations came out. Baldoni, who suffers from chronic back pain, needed to ensure everyone's weight was accurately accounted for during a lifting scene. It wasn't about body shaming, it was about safety. And on top of that, other cast members recalled Baldoni praising Blake for her dedication and work ethic. So once again, her claims weren't lining up with reality. Now, Hollywood is paying attention. Studios are reevaluating their deals with Blake. Directors and producers are quietly distancing themselves. The industry doesn't like controversy, especially when it involves someone who's been caught bending the truth. Her reputation is no longer about red carpet appearances and blockbuster roles. It's about a scandal that won't go away. And unless she finds a way to change the narrative fast, it's only going to get worse. And here's the irony. Blake tried to take Baldoni down, but she might have just given him a career boost instead. The more evidence comes out, the more people see him as the reasonable one. He's gone from being a director on the sidelines to a central figure in Hollywood's latest scandal, but in a way that's actually helping him. Instead of ruining Baldoni, Blake may have just handed him more credibility, more public support, and ironically, more attention for his movie. So what now? Does Blake keep fighting, or does she finally address the overwhelming contradictions? Either way, one thing is certain. Hollywood is watching, and this scandal isn't going away anytime soon.